today I've got such massive news that I'm actually going to be releasing them into 2 separate videos. Both of them are either coming out today or I'm going to release one today and one tomorrow. So if you're watching this one, definitely be on the lookout for another. That way I can really cover these stories the way they should be. And right off the bat, AMD's answer to frame generation is officially out. And that means just about everyone's GPUs are getting an upgrade. I'm of course talking about FSR3 and frame generation. And if you watch my original coverage back when AMD announced the RX 7800 XT and 7700 XT, you know that they announced that FSR3 along with frame generation, so we're talking both the upscaling tech and frame generation, are supported on way more GPUs than NVIDIA's DLSS 3. In fact, they actually support more NVIDIA GPUs than NVIDIA's own DLSS 3. As you can see right here in their supported and recommended hardware, we can see that NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 20 series and above are in fact supported for FSR3 with upscaling and frame generation. Now, it mentions recommended RTX 30 series and above, and I will go ahead and say that unfortunately we really still aren't 100% sure what exactly the difference is. Why is it that it's just supported but they recommend a higher series? I'm not sure, but I'll obviously figure that out as I begin testing. Not only that, but moving over to AMD GPUs, you can see it's supported on their RX 5000 series and above, but recommended on their RX 6000 series and above. So once again, still really not sure about what the differences between those two are, but obviously we shall find out soon. Oh, and not only that, but regular FSR3 upscaling, so not including frame generation, goes back even further. You can see supported on the GTX 1000 series and above, but recommended on the 20 series and above. Then on AMD's side, we can see it starts with the Radeon RX 590 and above, but is recommended for the RX 5000 series and above. So FSR3 is supported across a wide range of GPUs. Now all of that is really interesting and good, but of course it doesn't really help if it doesn't give us more performance. Now, unfortunately, it was just released, so I really haven't had any time to actually do any personal testing myself, but AMD is claiming some pretty big numbers. But first, now's the time to do more than just talk about computers. Join me and millions others with today's sponsor, Brilliant, the only online learning platform I trust when I'm ready to learn something new about computer science. I mean, what other place is a full course on neural networks, which is what powers modern AI? Now, that may sound a little too advanced, but this is the beauty of Brilliant. They start with simple concepts and build on them to make complex subjects easy. And they do this by making you actually engage with it, by ultimately doing it yourself with these fun and interesting puzzles. Whether it's having you think and code by planning a car route to creating your very own AI, Brilliant teaches you in the best way possible. And today is the perfect day to join, because when you visit my link at brilliant.org/gamermeld, you'll get to try it out for 30 days free. So there's no reason not to at least see how you like it. Plus, when you decide to get it, you'll get 20% off the premium for life. But once again, you'll have to visit brilliant.org/gamermeld. So what we're doing is we're comparing FSR3 off, but then FSR3 with performance mode plus frame generation. And as you can see, it gets some massive performance here. We're talking over 3 times the performance, and that actually even goes to last generation. You can see this right here, 6800 XT went from 37 FPS all the way up to 129. Now, I will say that this is performance mode, so it's upscaling from a fairly low resolution, but still, this is really impressive. The 6750 XT, 48 FPS, all the way up to 154, 6650 XT from 35 FPS to 114. So definitely impressive. And they even shared this, which basically shows, you can see, native resolution mode, but with frame generation. And even here, we're looking at 58 FPS, all the way up to 97, 69 to 120, even the 6800 XT from 65 to 115. Basically, this is really nice, especially because once again, it's supported on more NVIDIA GPUs than NVIDIA's own frame generation. Now, of course, with all of that said, I definitely really want to see, what it ends up looking like with this, what kind of latency we're going to see. So This is obviously still very early on, but it's definitely interesting because at least as of now, this feature's only been released in Forspoken and this new Immortals game. And at least I can say that more games are coming. You can see right here, this is 12. Originally, when they announced it, there were only 10 games, but they've now added EVE Online and PAX DEI. Still, that's a pretty far cry from where Nvidia is right now, but the news doesn't stop there. If you remember, during that video, I had spoken with my AMD rep, and I'm not talking some anonymous source or anything like that, it's my official AMD rep. And what they told me is that they're technically releasing two types of frame generation. One, which is the one that we just saw in FSR3 that supports quite a bit of GPUs, and then there's one that's only supported on their newest RX 7000 series. And this one is officially out, though it's in a beta, so obviously keep that in mind. But what's interesting about this one is that you can actually see that it's already supported in 12 games. A Plague Tale Requiem, Deep Rock Galactic, Hitman 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and yes, we are talking frame generation. Basically, from what I understand, the difference between this and the other one is that this is way more of a driver-supported thing. You can see right here, it says, today AMD has unveiled its latest technology, Fidelity FX Super Resolution 3 with 2 games. These games come equipped with integrated frame generation components as an internal part of FSR3, but AMD is now making this available to more games separately on a driver level as a fluid motion frame. And this is actually what kind of sparked the question that I had with AMD about, what kind of GPUs are supported? What's going on here? Because they act like fluid motion frame is frame generation, and it's also part of DLSS 3, but if you looked in their notes, I believe it was fluid motion frame where it said that it was only supported on the RX 7000 cards. So that kind of made me start to ask some questions, and that's where I got that answer where there's effectively two different kinds of frame generation. And what's interesting about this is that given the fact that they release so many games, it looks like it's way more of a driver level software versus something that game developers actually have to put into a game. I mean, we're talking 2 games versus 12. So a really big difference on release, and this technically isn't even a release. It's like a beta, or well, it's actually it's considered a preview release. So this isn't even the full release, and yet it's supported in way more games than FSR3 with that full release. And I have to admit that this really seems like a genius move from AMD. Basically, they have their FSR3 with frame generation that's supported on way more GPUs than obviously anything with DLSS 3, given that's only their newest 40 series cards. Then they have one that's only supported on the RX 7000 cards, yet it'll likely be supported by way more games because, at least according to my theory that I'm gathering from all of this, it's likely way easier. And given AMD's fluid motion frame, all of that, FSR3 frame generation is likely, I'm not going to say 100%, but based on DLSS versus FSR, it's likely not going to be as good, at least for now. It can obviously catch up later on, but at least for now, it's likely not going to be as good as NVIDIA's version. But given the fact that AMD supports way more GPUs, and it looks like they may soon support way more games, this could really help them in the long run. But of course, that's not 100% guaranteed. It just really looks like that here. But either way, all of this I just thought was really interesting. Wanted to discuss it. But what do you think about AMD's newest FSR3 with frame generation and the fluid motion frames, all that stuff? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to try out Brilliant for free at brilliant.org/gamermeld. And as always, have a great day.